thank you for coming to our talk today. My name is Kit O'Connor. I've been a high school teacher. I've been a human rights activist with Amnesty International, and I'm currently a victim advocate with Kentucky Refugee Ministries.
Hi, I'm Debbie Goonan. I am a victim advocate as well with Kentucky Refugee Ministries. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and really love my job at KRM.
So we just wanted to talk a little bit about what we do. Our positions are funded by the Victim of Crime Act, which is called VOCA. And we essentially, if you are, English is not your first language and you are a victim of a crime, any crime, whether it's tax fraud or domestic violence, or even you get punched in a parking lot somewhere, we can be there and we can help you navigate and get you the services you need.
So why did Kentucky Refugee Ministries create these positions? It was based on the needs that we saw day in and day out. Many of our clients are coming from other countries and English is their second language. Navigating our legal system is hard for even those of us who were born right here in the United States. Kentucky Refugee Ministries saw that this was a barrier and that many of our clients and our population were not reporting crimes or were not seeking help because of the barriers in place and their fears of our legal system.
And people may come to the United States and not understand how the legal system works. So one of the things that we do is we can help this survivor or victim of crime to, whether it is to report to the police what happened, write an emergency protective order, work with the police through the whole process of figuring out the crime, and then if it goes to court, we can be there in court, we can provide assistance in navigating the court system and explaining how the American courts work. But that's not all that we do. We can provide other services. What are some of the services we've provided for people?
So for many people who are in domestic violence situations, it may mean they have to start over again. So they had to start over the first time when they came to this country, and now here they are, starting over again. We will help with all those steps. We can help find housing for them. We can help them apply for public benefits. We can fill out those 30-page applications to get someone into subsidized housing. We can help them enroll their children in school should they need to move their children to a different school system or school district.
As a matter of fact, when I first started, and I've only been here for about 4 months now, Debbie was in the middle of filling out a housing application for somebody, and it was awe-inspiring to watch her go through the tedious job. And if you really think about it, people for whom English is their first language and who grow up in the United States and are used to these kind of questions that they have to ask and the resources they have to access, it's difficult for them. Now add the complicated layer of it all being new to you. And it was tedious to watch her have to do that, but she did, and hopefully, our clients will be able to access that housing soon.
We both love our jobs and we enjoy being able to solve these kinds of puzzles for people. Walking through, knowing the emotional toil of just coping with the effects of the crime, and then the added stresses of being oftentimes alone or with very little support. I find that really challenging, and I really treasure the relationships I get to form with the clients that we see. We have seen clients from youth to elderly in this job, so each day is a different day and we don't know what's going to come in our door.
And every case that we've worked with couldn't be more different than the next one. And yet there are certain similarities where it takes time and patience to try to move through the different situations with people. But it's really rewarding. And I find that I myself grow as a person just by being able to do the job.
Sometimes our day might be finding used chest of drawers to deliver to a client. It might be jumping in the van and driving to London, Kentucky to visit with a new immigrant who was sexually assaulted. It might be going to court with a 70-year-old woman who, after 40 years,
So we've talked a little bit about what services we provide, but how are the services in any way related to like the crime? Why are we providing those services if the crime was something different from that?
That's a good comment. Well, if we just accompany someone to court, how much has their life changed by us and our involvement in their life? We would help them through the court process, but then they walk out of that courtroom and they don't have anything in place, especially in the case of a domestic violence situation. We might have gotten them the DVO, but where will they live? How will they be safe? How will they provide for their children, especially in the cases where the partner is the one who is the primary wage earner? So we see that as an essential part, don't we? That we then help them to sustain themselves and their family as they move forward. And that might be housing, that might be public benefits, that might be helping children enroll in school. And some of these are services that an English-speaking, American-born person probably would be just given a list with some phone numbers, and they could just go out and do that. And we know with our client population that they can't just be given a list, because they could probably not be able to even read anything on the list, nor know how to make those applications.
Right. And I'm really struck by the thought that, you know, if, say, the crime itself was domestic violence, and the partner that needs to leave that unsafe situation, if they're new, or if they don't speak the language, or they can't read the language, they're stuck going out there oftentimes with a family with no background. And so them having to find housing or help with school is directly impacted by this crime. And there's a direct line from one to the other. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And you found that in a lot of the people you've worked with.
Very much so. And you know, another thing I've heard is, well, why don't you just send them to Greenhouse 17 or to one of the domestic violence shelters? And we have come to understand that the cultural differences are pretty massive when we're talking to our clients. That a shelter experience is not anything from their background, that they've ever known anyone who's ever gone to a shelter or talked to anyone who's ever been in a shelter, and the fears around just that talk about a shelter are massive. So it's not as likely that a victim is going to leave what is familiar and even though violent to go to such an unknown, very frightening place where the other residents or the other participants are all English-speaking American-born. The sense of isolation will be massive. The other key difference that I find is in our American culture, domestic violence, especially in the last 20 to 30 years, has really become, people are aware of it, people understand it. Your family, your friends oftentimes will give you feedback that you need to leave, I can help you, this isn't good, he's not going to change, or she's not going to change. That's kind of not the same message that we have, some of our victims and some of our survivors are hearing. What they're hearing is, marriage is forever, you need to stick with this, you won't be able to support yourself, don't leave. And so with that message being heard from all the significant people in their lives, it takes a lot more effort and work to help them see a different perspective.
And one of the things that I think we both try to do is to respect the survivor or victim's sense of agency as they're doing it, and help them see their own agency as they're, like, we don't dictate, okay, you are going to go here and you're going to go there. It's what do you want to do, and then working patiently with that.
We are certainly, we work with victims of crime, survivors of domestic violence at where they're at. So we can start working with them even when they're not ready to start over, or they don't need to get an EPO or a DVO. They may want to stay in the relationship when we start working with them. We'll help them do safety planning, we'll help them do educational things so that they can understand what's going on and what the options are for them.
Which relates to my teaching background. Knowledge is power. So we help provide the knowledge and then let them make their way, work with them as they make their way through the systems that we have to work through. But then who is it? If it is you know, someone who English is not their first language, who do we serve? Who are those folks that we serve?
We've had clients that are fluent in English, and we've even had some funny experiences where we've scheduled an interpreter, and then we meet the client and we find out they're fluent in English and the interpreter has nothing to do.
Very humbling.
But yes, as long as English was not their first language. So for some of our clients that came here as young children, they were educated in American schools. They may be DACA recipients, or they may be in the same kind of category as that. They can be documented or undocumented individuals. They can be from our refugee population, or they can be from the university, and they came here and they're teaching at the university or working at the medical center.
Yeah.
If English was their second language or third language or fifth language, they would qualify for services through us.
And those services are free of charge. We don't charge for them to access what we can help them for. That's not what we're funded for, and that's not what we're about. The thing that I think other than working directly with people who have been impacted by crimes, one of my favorite things about this job, other than working with Debbie Goonan, which is wonderful, is that we get to form relationships with other organizations. So for example, we work closely with Greenhouse 17, and that's been very rewarding. We recently have started working with the Centro de San Juan Diego over on Alexandria Drive, and that is an amazingly wonderful space. Who are some of the other folks you've been working with?
Oh my goodness, the Nest, the Family Care Center, many of the family resource centers in the schools have made referrals to us.
School systems,
teachers, school social workers,
landlords.
Yeah.
And they can reach out to us by contacting KRM. Do you have the number?
859-226-5661.
You could reach out directly to us. I'm going to do an ad. 859-447-1472. Come find us and we can work with you. And your number?
502-263-3883.
And then you get to work with she.
And I have a Louisville number, but I'm a Lexington staff person. So the other thing is we are available nights, weekends. We want to be there for our clients at the time that they need us most. We've accompanied people to the emergency room. We've worked some strange hours, but are blessed that we can flex our hours in order to do that.
Yeah. And KRM is just such a fantastic resource, just all around. So it's been great. And I think we both would like to just give a shout out and thank you for, wanting to learn more about VOCA, the Victims of Crime Act, and the work we do. And feel free to reach out to us anytime.
We'd be happy to answer your questions. We'd be happy to come and present at any staff meetings or groups that you're involved with. We would try to make it a little more interesting maybe than this little short blip has been.
But I will rhyme and I will sing to you because that's what I do.
Okay.
Oh, one other thing that I wanted to mention is we're not limited to Lexington. We do cover, like for example, we do have a client in London. We had a client in Frankfurt, so we can go all over the bluegrass region.
Yeah. Somerset, Richmond, Berea.
Richmond.
So we can travel.
Debbie, could you give us just an idea of like what one case, that you think really would resonate with people, that really illustrate the kind of work we can do?
I have a case in mind. We were working with a refugee who had come into the office seeking help, not even knowing we had the Victim Advocate Program, because the Child Protection System had removed her children that morning. Her husband, who she came to the United States with, had been arrested and charged with domestic violence. He had also harmed her children. And she, when first approached, she did not understand all the steps involved, and she left the apartment. She did not get a DVO, and the cabinet felt the children were still at risk because of those actions. She had not gone to a shelter, and she had not gotten a DVO. So we were able to work with her, help her with the whole child protection system, with getting herself safely established into an apartment, then when he was able to locate her, unfortunately, and again assaulted her, we moved her again. And probably in that process, we moved her 3 times. Each time helping financially with the rent, helping with just the physical move, helping get her belongings from her old apartment, and following up on his case to see where he was, and working with the Sheriff's Department to keep electronic monitoring on him because of his violence. In the end, the outcome was the kids did come back home again. She's living safely with them, and the kids are really involved in their neighborhood, in their school, and she's working full-time through our employment team, was able to get her a full-time job. It was a really nice way of seeing how all of our services could wrap around to help this woman go from a very dangerous situation to a life of much more peacefulness with her children.
So it had a happy ending.
Had a happy ending. A lot of work in between. This mom went through an awful lot, but she is really a strong woman, and I learned probably more from her than she learned from me some days. I think, wow.
So we'll leave you with that, but thank you so much for your attention. If you need anything, we're at KRM. You can find us if there's anything we can do for you. But thank you. Have a great day.